Chapter 6. Scene 1. Megachurch. All the way into the 8th grade, Naomi and Bethany never forgot the discussions about non-Christians. However, it had been so seldomly mentioned that it had become hidden in a deep corner of their minds. But it continued to spring forward. Even before kindergarten, Naomi had learned the very basic history of Christianity from her mother and their small church, but she had never been presented with the notion that non-Christians were dangerous, maybe even evil. She only vaguely understood the idea that sin was bad, whatever sin was. What made a bad act a sin, she was not certain. However, she knew it was important to her new family, so it would be important to her. At the end of the school day, Naomi and Bethany, as usual, walked together to the pickup area where, every day, Delilah, now a sophomore, was already impatiently pacing, growing angrier with each passing minute. Delilah turned as she heard their chatter. It's Mom's church day, so I'll bet she will be at least 30 minutes late. So, I'm going to have to listen to you two jabber. Bethany absorbed the insult, then quietly affirmed to herself. She'll be here in a little while. Too audibly, Delilah said, sometimes I wonder if she's just hoping I'll be kidnapped. So, she doesn't have to deal with me anymore. That's not fair. You know she loves us, Naomi retorted. She loves you two a lot. I'm just taking up space in her time. You're wrong. She loves you as much as she loves us, all of us. No, she loves you, the two goody two-shoes, more than anyone. That's not true. She's a great mother, Naomi argued. Bethany added, that's right, a great mother. She does a lot for all of us. She always puts us before herself. She puts you before herself. Delilah stepped in front of Bethany. Listen, Beth Phony, she loves the adopted daughter of the baby killer more than her real daughter. Except you, of course. That's a horrible thing to say. Our mom is Naomi's mom. Naomi is our real sister. Not mine. She just latched onto us like a barnacle and is sucking us dry. Naomi felt the weight of Delilah's hate and rejection. It's a weight that Naomi had been carrying since the first week in the family, when Delilah had returned Naomi's repeated kindness with sneers and under her breath cruel comments. Bethany saw tears filling the corner of Naomi's eyes. She put her arms around her. She has not. She's been a good sister. She has never been cruel to anyone. Of course not. She's half of the goody two-shoes twins. Why are you always mean to us? You aren't mean to Elijah. Elijah is my brother, my real brother, not some sniveling, phony sister. Come on, Naomi. Bethany moved Naomi away from Delilah. Delilah grinned. Good. Now stay away from me, both of you. The girls never expected to be picked up on time if their mother had a church meeting, but today she was the latest she had ever been. Delilah got increasingly angry. Where the hell is the bitch? Stunned, Bethany responded. That's horrible. You shouldn't talk like that about anyone. Bethany checked her watch. Her mother was 45 minutes late. I hope nothing has happened to her. Naomi worriedly said, Don't say that. Don't think bad thoughts. She's okay. I hope so. Delilah muttered, No big loss. Maybe we'll get a mother who will pick us up on time. You are so mean. You don't have to be mean. Naomi said. Delilah grunted and turned her head away. Frowning, Naomi looked at Bethany. She's such a mean person. Down deep inside, she is really a nice person. We just have to keep being nice to her. She'll come around. A few minutes later, the limo pulled up to the curb. Delilah got in the front seat. Bethany and Naomi slid into the back. I'm so sorry I'm late. I got held up at the church planning committee. I should probably have sent the driver and had him come back to pick me up. Delilah muttered, that would be the smart thing to do, wouldn't it? However, everybody has their priorities. Mrs. Colin glared at Delilah, but said nothing. Bethany reached over and touched her mother's arm softly. Naomi smiled. It's okay. It gave us time to talk about girl stuff. Anything I should know about? No, just silly stuff. The limo pulled away and headed to the mansion. Bethany and Naomi shared their unexceptional day with their mother. Delilah sulked the entire trip, rushed out of the car, leaving the door open. Naomi got out and closed the door. The driver opened the back passenger door for Mrs. Colin. As Naomi, Bethany, and their mother headed up the walkway, Delilah rushed up the steps, opened the door, stepped over the threshold, looked back, and as she stared, shut the door sharply. Mrs. Colon hesitated, then asked, "What's she angry about this time?" "Everything," Naomi said. "She just had a bad day, I think," Bethany said. "She's been having a lot of bad days for years. I don't know what's eating that girl. She just needs a little more love," Bethany said. With confused worry, Mrs. Colon stopped outside the front door and sorrowfully asked, "Doesn't she think I love her?" Bethany immediately saw her pain. "Oh no, Mom. I think you show all of us a lot of love. It's just that some days she needs a little more. I try as hard as I can, but she's not easy. She's very sensitive," Naomi said. "But I'm sure she loves you," Bethany added, "and she knows you love her. She just needs a little extra. Do you two feel loved?" "Oh yes. Of course." "Good. But you two are easy to deal with. You always seem happy. You get along, especially with each other. Maybe that's it. Maybe she needs someone. You two have each other and get along so well." "What?" Naomi and Bethany looked at each other. Naomi said, "Bethany told me she loved me the first day, so I kind of loved her too. She looked out for me. We love each other. I want her to be happy. And I want her to be happy. You two are strangely nice. You're very different, wonderfully different." Bethany said, "Loving someone doesn't mean you have to be loved." "Yeah, you can love and not need to be loved in return," Naomi added. "You two have thought about this a lot, haven't you?" "I don't know. I think we just kind of know it," Naomi said. "Yeah, it is like what good Christians should do," Bethany added. "You're right. Are you sure you two aren't 40 years old?" They laughed. She hugged both daughters. "Let's go in. I'll give Delilah some special attention." The two girls went upstairs to do homework. Mrs. Colon went to Delilah's room. The door was closed. "Delilah, may I come in? I'd like to talk to you." "I'm Busse." Her mother grabbed the doorknob. The door was locked. "Don't come in here. I told you I was busy. I just want to make sure you're okay." "I'm Fine. Now, leave me alone. You don't seem fine. You seem angry." Gruffly, she replied, "I'm not angry. Now leave me alone." As Mrs. Colon walked past Bethany's room, they could hear their mom quietly crying. Naomi and Bethany watched her walk toward the stairs. They looked at each other, and shortly after, they both rose and went downstairs to find her. She was pulling out a chair at the kitchen table when Naomi and Bethany entered the room. She quickly wiped away the tears. With her voice breaking, she asked, "Yes, what do you need?" They walked to her, and with one on one side and one on the other, they wrapped their arms around her. She put her arms around their waists, and there they stayed until much of the sadness had been sponged away. "What's the hug fest for?" Mr. Colon asked with a flutter of his eyebrows. "They're consoling me." His tone switched to concern. "What happened?" "Nothing. I'm just feeling a little sad." "Why?" "It's just one of those days." That usually means one of the kids. It can't be Elijah. He's still a practice. It's obviously not these two. Everybody loves them because they love everybody. They won't even kill spiders when they're in the house, even when they are in the tub. They shuffle them into a jar and release them into the wild while blowing them a kiss. So, my guess is that Delilah is responsible. It's okay. Really, I think I should have a talk with the girl. Her bad mood has gone on long enough. "Please don't, Ethan." Bethany said, "Please, Dad. She's having a tough time." "For a whole year?" Ethan turned. "Please, Ethan, don't talk to her. It will just make it worse." He turned back. "Dad, Delilah is just really sad," Naomi said. Bethany added, "She needs someone to comfort her." "Have you tried that?" "Yes, but it didn't work, did it?" "Well," a staccato of footsteps faded up the stairs. It was followed by a slammed door that filled the mansion. "Oh God," Esther said. "She heard us. What is she going to think?" Ethan said, "She wasn't on the stairs when I came home. So she only heard what was said when I was talking to you. So, I was the culprit." Bethany walked to her father, took his hand, looked up into his eyes, and said, "Daddy, please be kind to her. She's really a nice sister." "Do you really believe that?" Naomi said, "Yes. She's doing the best she can. You two girls would forgive a shark after it chewed off your leg." Bethany said, "I like sharks." Naomi added, "They're cute." "I think you two are crazy, really sweet but loony." Mrs. Colon said, "Let's just try pretending it didn't happen." "Yeah." Bethany said, "We'll just be really nice to her." Naomi said, "And not get upset with her." Mr. Colon said, "Kill her with kindness." "Well, it's worth a shot." He smiled. Mrs. Collins said, "Ethan, kill and shot." Really? I thought it was pretty clever in a serial killer kind of way. Anyway, I got some big news. Clear the table, then go into the kitchen and wait. I'll knock on the door when I'm ready. And no peeking. Ethan left after the three were in the kitchen. 10 minutes later, he knocked on the kitchen door. The door opened. Mrs. Colin took a step and slammed to a stop. The two girls, one on each side, looked around her. "Ethan, this is amazing. Is it really going to happen?" "Yes. It's going to take a lot of work and some heavy funding, but it will." "What is it?" Naomi asked. "It's going to be our new church." "When?" "Not for several years, but it's going to get done." Bethany said, "It doesn't look like a church. It looks like someone cut a soccer ball in half." "It does, doesn't it?" Mrs. Collins said. "It's called a geodesic dome. A lot of those panels that make the dome will have religious scenes of places and people. Guess how many people it will hold?" Naomi said, "Hundreds. A lot more than that." "Thousands," Bethany said. "How many thousands?" 3,000. "No, 7,000. Mrs. Collins said, "Go on, Ethan, just tell them." 15,000 evangelical Christians. "No way," Bethany said. "It's true. And your father is one of the people from the Council of Evangelical Christian Churches who had been chosen for the planning team." "Oh, Daddy, that's so great," Naomi said as Bethany, and her mother ran over and hugged him. Ethan reached over, touched Esther's hand, glared mildly, and slightly shook his head. Esther closed her mouth around her next words, leaving everyone else to wonder. "Well, I see I wasn't included again. Why don't you just give me to another family?" Delilah said, standing at the entrance to the dining room, scowling. She remained a few moments waiting for them to feel the guilt she intended them to bear. When she saw the pained expressions, she turned and ran up the stairs. Mrs. Collins said, "Oh, God, no." Within seconds, tears were running down her cheeks. "What have we done?" Bethany turned and hugged her. "Mom, it's not your fault. She told you to leave her alone." Ethan and the family waited for the inevitable. It came. The boom from the door was even bigger. The chandelier hanging near the stairs swayed. Ethan scowled. "Well, this has been pleasant. She'll get over it, I'm sure," Naomi said. Her mother continued to cry. "That's it. She's doing this on purpose. She wants to hurt us. It's time to give her a thorough tongue lashing. And if that doesn't work, a real lashing." "Dad, please don't hurt her," Naomi pleaded. "I'm not going to hit her. Be kind to her. She's really hurting," Bethany said. "That's questionable. Please," Bethany emphasized. Okay. Fighting his desire to thrash Delilah verbally, he trudged to her room. He raised his hand to knock. Instead, he briskly opened her door. He wondered why she had not locked it. Maybe she wants to talk. Delilah was sitting on the edge of her bed with her head in her hands, crying quietly. It was one of the few times anyone had seen her cry since she was 10. He sat next to her and put his arm around her shoulder. She pushed against him, but he held fast. Through her sobs, she said, "I hate all of you. None of you want me around. Everybody else in this family is more important than me." He put his hand on the side of her head, pulling it against his chest. She tried to push him away. He wouldn't allow it. She hit his chest. She melted into his arms, sobbing harder. Nearly inaudible, she said, "Why do I do this? Why do I feel this way? I'm miserable most of the time. I don't know. I know we all want you to be happy, but I'm not sure you want to be happy. I'm not sure you want us to love you. I'm not sure you want to love us. But I do. But when I try to, I feel you don't want me bothering you. I've never felt that way. At least I don't think I have. And Bethany and Naomi would like to be around you, but you push them away. Elijah was always telling me to get lost. He didn't want me around. When we were younger, he would at least do a few things with me, and then he suddenly stopped. All he cared about was soccer and his friends. He made me feel like I was an embarrassment. Big brothers are supposed to protect, to look after little sisters. He didn't. He's always sneering at me and putting me down in front of his friends. I write him at college, but he never writes me back. So, this is really more about Elijah than us. Why does he hate me? He doesn't. He's just one of those people who gets obsessed and shuts everyone out. When I was young, I was like him too. I made a lot of people angry until I met your mother. She gave me perspective. She made me feel wanted. But Mom is really pretty, and people like her. but she's also very nice. But I'm not pretty like Bethany and Naomi. Everybody likes them right away because they're pretty. They're also very nice. They like people. If I were pretty, people would like me right away. People always like pretty people immediately. If I were pretty, people would like me and say nice things about me. We are what we were born with, but a pretty person who is mean, people see them as ugly because inside they are ugly. People who are not pretty, people will see them as pretty inside, and that makes people see them as pretty. Do you understand? So I can be pretty. If you are kind and helpful and like people, they will like you. They will make you feel pretty. Really, try it. What have you got to lose? Nothing, I guess. And remember this. Eventually, if we live long enough, none of us are pretty. Look at old people. They're not pretty. Time equalizes us. Live a long time, and you'll be as pretty as anyone else your age. Delilah wiped her eyes. Stop thinking about Elijah. There aren't many people he likes. And I'll bet there are a lot of people who don't like him. He just doesn't care. Now, come on downstairs. Hug your mom and your sisters. They'd love that. And I've got something to show you. Down to the dining room. They went. They hugged each other. Then they gathered around the dining table. And Ethan explained the megachurch and its future. They sat at the table and chatted. Rita came down, had a brief conversation with the family, and went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Ethan's glare had prevented Esther from mentioning his long-term plans to secure the presidency. The megachurch was a step toward his major objective, president of the 12 cities of the Council of Evangelical Christian Churches. It would be a delicate operation fraught with jealous competition. While he was the head of the advisory board of Evangelical Church of Lord's Bounty, and thus a member of the Council of Evangelical Christian Churches, he didn't have enough votes, which were based on the size of the congregation, to secure the presidency of the council when the current president, Lloyd Bertrand, left his position. He would need to form a stronger coalition than anyone else when the time came. Only Elijah and Esther knew his plans, and he had to ensure that no one else would sense his ambition. It wouldn't look good, and that might keep his desire from coming to fruition. Scene 2. Evangelical History. As expected, the first day of the year at Hope Christian Middle School for Girls started with a prayer, slid into a Bible lecture, then English, then math, then the science of creationism, and finally history Christianity with an emphasis on the evangelical Christian movement. 8th grade also started a mandatory monthly report. At the end of history class, those students whose menstruation had started and ended would drop their menstruation cards in a basket at the teacher's desk. The teacher would record it on a form, and at the end of the month mail the form and the cards to the Office of Fetal Protection, a well-funded government agency in the district, reporting that history would continue by the individual until menstruation stopped, no matter what the age of the woman. It was closely followed, and it was only fitting that history classes would be the point of origin. For Bethany and Naomi, that was Mrs. Sanderson, a mother of 3 girls. Mrs. Sanderson taught 8th grade history, and although she was a very strict and staid teacher most of the time, when inspired or outraged, she could quickly bring her emotions to a boil and use her gift as a storyteller to drive home her point. Her daily attire, however, belied her passion. She wore the same sensible shoes with plain brown socks every teaching day. Her plain color dresses started at her ankles and ended with a high white collar. The buttoned-up teacher the students saw when they walked into the room the first time was not what they would experience during the whole year. Today was the first day of school. For this special day, Mrs. Sanderson put a slight curl in her shoulder-length brown hair. Bethany and Naomi had sat next to each other since kindergarten, initially to guide Naomi. In all first-period classes, next to each student's desk was a backpack with school supplies. On each desk sat the books for the history class, 3 volumes of the struggle. Volume 1, The History of Evangelical Christianity. Volume 2, The Battle for United Christian States of America. Volume 3, Creating the United Christian States of America. The books rested on top of a cloth shopping bag, into which books from all the other classes could be placed when the backpack was full. Naomi never needed any help with school. Her mother and Bethany had always made sure that she understood her assignments. She was meticulously prepared before she started the school day and knew more than most of the students. However, she figured that Mrs. Sanderson, like her previous teachers, would not call on her. Naomi had always been thankful for that. However, she had taken pains to be out of a direct line of sight. However, sitting next to Bethany, who loved to volunteer, put Naomi in danger. So, when Bethany was called on, Naomi scrunched down, tried to disappear into the seat. If she could, she would have crawled into her backpack. With the raise of the ruler in Mrs. Sanderson's hand, the chatter diminished by half. The sound of the ruler hitting her desk brought a startled silence for the half who had ignored Mrs. Sanderson's initial signal. Thus, she had gained the class's attention. For the first 9 years of your schooling, you learned only the simple history of how Christians founded the country and, under the guidance of the Lord, started us on the path that led us to this point. It is much more complex than that, and we will embark on that this year. You learned how Christians had to struggle against prejudice, false accusations of Christian leaders' wrongdoings. You learned how we had to fight against the creation of a false narrative about the history of evangelical Christianity. She paused and solemnly continued. We fought back against these lies. For decades, the church has searched for books in holy bastion that spread the lies about our religion. Many have been found and destroyed. Always remember, we are not banning books. We are banning lies, evil, sin, and the devil's temptation, and we only do it for our religious faith. However, after the revolutions, many other divisions of Christian faiths have followed our lead. Some faiths, such as charismatic Christians and Pentecostal Christians, are so similar to ours that we readily accept them as part of the family of evangelical Christians. With heightened intensity, she declared, "We are protecting the evangelical Christian religion, which the country called the United States of America promised to do 433 years ago, but failed to do. They didn't protect our people from attempts to destroy or weaken us, and even aided those attempts. We have been attacked from all sides. Eventually, conspiracies to destroy the evangelical Christian movement were perpetrated by the former government of the United States of America. Even other Christian religions spread conspiracies and unfounded rumors about us. There were constant threats by atheists and secularists to deny us the right to worship our God where and how we chose, and to set our own laws based on our own religion. God's religion has to be based on God's law." With a final burst, she fiercely said, "We must not relax for a second. We must not weaken our resolve. Evil is always at the door. The devil is always tempting us. Our battle is never over. Remember, you are fighting for our entire way of life, for our nation, for the right to worship and govern through the heart and soul of our Lord." Her flared eyes scanned the room. She took a step forward. The class straightened. Sensing their fear, she hesitated, calmed, and continued. "This year we will be studying civics and delving deeper into the history of our United Christian States of America. You will learn about the government of our Christian country and your obligations and responsibility to keep it strong. I will be telling you about the origin of the United Christian States of America and the early people who led the way to our great society. Pay close attention. We are a nation ordained by God, and we must protect it. It is no mistake that we are who we are and where we are. It is a destiny planned by the will and power of the Lord." She took another step forward. "The history of the events we will study is crucial. Pay attention. Your ancestors sacrificed and fought hard to establish our United Christian States of America." The repetition emphasizing the title was no mistake. The students opened their backpacks. Angela raised her hand. "Angela, I don't have enough pencils." "How many do you have?" "2. That's all anyone has. But I break the tips a lot, and it takes a long time to sharpen a new one, and I'll miss taking notes." "Then don't press so hard and practice sharpening pencils or buy more pencils." "But my parents." "Angela, learn to live with what you have. You're no different from the other girls." "Yes, Mrs. Sanderson. In first period homeroom, you were given instructions about the backpack. I will now review them. The initial assignments and the handouts for each class are in a folder in the middle section of your backpack. When needed, you will be given new folders, which will replace the old folders. You're to treat the folders carefully because we need to reuse them. You're not to write on the folders or anything in them. You have a notebook for notes. That's what you will use. Although I expect you to volunteer for class discussions before being asked, if you don't, you will be called on. Naomi shuddered. Take out your notebook. I will now begin the instruction. Let us see what you remember from last year. You should know what we, as Christians, believe and have fought so hard to ensure that Christians have a nation that represents, supports, and defends their values. Evangelical Christians do more. We spread the word of the Lord. We evangelize. The first question is very simple. What kind of government do we have? A dozen hands were raised. Linda, I believe your hand was first. Christian nationalism, Mrs. Sanderson. Almost correct. United Christian States of America, but what does that mean? Malia waved her hand frantically. Malia, our roots are in the European countries before foreigners were allowed to cross borders and dilute the native populations. Very well put. What does that have to do with the original founding of this country? Naomi's hand shot up. Naomi, Europeans were the first settlers, and they established Christianity as the country's religion. They came so they could worship the only God, a Christian God, our Lord and Savior. Good. Those are the easy questions. Now, for something a little harder. From what religious movement can Christian nationalism be traced? I see there are not so many hands this time. Bethany, you seem especially eager. From the evangelical and fundamentalist movements. And from how far back did evangelical fundamentalist movement originate? I think it was 1738. Are you sure it was that long ago? Yes, Mrs. Sanderson. Right. Does anyone know what that movement was called? She pointed at Cilicia. The First Great Awakening. And who were some of the leading figures? I think one was Billy Graham. Yes, he was one of several in the 1950s. Were some very early ones from long ago. What about some earlier people? Mrs. Sanderson asked. She waited but found no hands. I guess I'll have to pick someone. She pointed. Elizabeth. Elizabeth sat staring at the ceiling as if the answer would appear there. Hesitantly, she said, I think he had a name of an animal. The class chuckled. Don't laugh. She's on the right track. Is it Fox? You're right. It was George Fox in the mid-1600s. Also, in the mid-1700s, there was John Wesley, George Whitefield, and Jonathan Edwards. The class frantically took notes. Tell us one from the 50s. Several hands went up. Phoebe, Bill Bright, Naomi, Harold Ikenga, Bernice, John Stott, and he was British. Priscilla, Martin Lloyd-Jones. He was Welsh, which is almost the same as being English. Don't ever say that to someone from Wales. Yes, ma'am. One of the tenets of evangelical Christians is conversionism, which is the necessity to be born again. It has been a belief since the beginning. For them, for us, the principal message of the gospel is justification through faith in Christ, repentance, and moving away from sin. That's the foundation of the Christian nationalist movement. And if you ever research it, you will see that most of their beliefs are the same as ours. However, we had to go much farther than they did to securing a true Christian nation, a United Christian States of America. Bethany raised her hand. Yes, Bethany, you have a question? Mrs. Sanderson, what was wrong with the United States of America? Why don't we learn about things from those early times? Mrs. Sanderson gave Bethany a harsh look. That's because that became a very sinful time. Worldly desires became. Her tone abruptly changed, and she became more and more emotional. It was a time when evangelical Christians were persecuted, when we were prevented from worshiping and teaching the way we desired and had a right to teach. The more we tried to put the country back to the way it was when Christians founded what was called the New World, the more they persecuted us. The early settlers worked hard to make this a righteous Christian land. And for a time it was, but then weak-minded Christians came, and with them came sin. They brought slavery and cruelty, and they polluted Christian ideals. Mrs. Sanderson suddenly felt her face flushing. She noticed her own rising intensity. She abruptly stopped and took a calming, deep breath. Less agitated, Mrs. Sanderson solemnly said, "It was a terrible time for Christians." Bethany, you have another question? All eyes focused on Bethany. Are there any books we can read about the United States of America, like some that were written back then? She paused for several seconds, and subduing her rising anger, she continued. The books from back then are very, very old books and not accurate. Plus, they haven't been approved for reading in school because they were written by people who didn't approve of evangelical Christianity. So they distorted history purposely to make evangelical Christians look bad. They did not give an accurate history of our burgeoning nation. Her tone became more strident. She paced as she talked, gesticulating frenetically. It was a horrible time when sin was destroying the people. A lot of the history from that era was purely propaganda and lies by the news media, which was controlled by the government and rich atheists. Anti-Christian bias falsely portrayed the United Christian States of America as autocratic and proponents of dictatorship. The liberal elite from that time tried to destroy the young United Christian States of America's movement through lies and trickery. They falsified documents they used in court to defend their cheating, and the courts, which were filled with atheist liberals, supported the lies. They prosecuted innocent Christian leaders, very important national leaders. They lied, and then they denied they had done anything wrong, but people knew they had. It was a dangerous time for the United Christian States of America and many other Christians. Some Christians even betrayed us, but we don't consider them true Christians because they did not support the need for a righteous Christian nation. We cannot have you reading lies or anyone spreading lies. It hurt the Christian movement in the late 20th century and the early to late 21st century. We must destroy the lies. The class was stunned. They had heard intense, strident preaching from the pulpit, but they had never seen a teacher this angry. Teachers were stern and strong disciplinarians, but did not express this much wrath. For the first time, Naomi was frightened by teachers' anger. Mrs. Sanderson's expression had brought back an ancient memory. The anger matched those of the men who had taken her mother away. She felt the same fear rising. She wanted to hide behind her hands until Mrs. Sanderson's rage had passed. Bethany recognized Naomi's distress. She reached across the aisle and clasped Naomi's hand. It's okay. She's not angry at us. It's the bad things that were done to Christians. However, Bethany's intense curiosity had now been primed by Mrs. Sanderson's emotional outburst. She wanted to know what was wrong with the books. Why did this other country, the United States of America, have to remain a secret? Was the history that different from the one she had been exposed to at school? How different? They studied other history of other countries from that time. Why not this? What could bring on Mrs. Sanderson's extreme reaction? The mind of the intrepid explorer had been awakened. Scene 3. Purity in all its forms. For all incoming new students, the initial meeting of a young Christian nationalist started in a large room and was conducted by a member of the United Christian States of America Party. The room filled rapidly, and a young man walked to a lectern, raised his hands, and loudly said, "You will be silent. My name is Lester Givens. If this is your first meeting, make sure that you fill out and sign the Young Christian Nationalist Membership Application. You will be given an identification number. Memorize it. As a member, you have special privileges, which you will become acquainted with over time. If you have already signed up, make certain that you sign the attendees sign-in sheet with your name and your Christian Nationalist CN identification number before you leave. As members of the Young United Christian States of America Party, your task is to grow the party. Find people who are not yet members and get them to join. To the Lord, you are a missionary. Remember that. Encourage them to come to the meetings. Meet them after school and make it a point to escort them to a meeting. Becoming their friend is a sure way to get them to join. Remind them of their obligations as Christians to spread the word of the gospel, and let them know that the party represents the moral and ethical beliefs of the Christian faith. Now, there are lists on the wall at the back of the room. Find your name and go to the designated room. God bless you all. Only a few people stood. He gruffly said, "Well, what are you waiting for? Get to it." Bethany and Naomi had been assigned to Young Christian Nationalist High School senior Abigail Taylor in room 5. When they walked into the room, there were no chairs, a common condition, and an obvious indication they would be sitting on the floor, looking up at Abigail. By having to look up, Bethany immediately admired Abigail. Naomi felt uncomfortable being looked down on. She felt subservient. After all the girls were sitting cross-legged on the floor, Abigail asked the girl in the front row to stand, give her name, and introduce the girl next to her. That was repeated until everyone had been introduced. As they did, Abigail committed their names to memory. She would never forget them. She said it was her gift from God. Girls, this year we will be covering a very important subject. She paused. And don't start giggling. It is very serious. It is virginity, called chastity by some. Now, this is not a sex ed class, so don't go home and tell your parents that we were discussing sex. We are not. We are talking about the necessity to remain pure, to remain a virgin until you are married. It will sometimes be hard, but it is essential if you want God's blessings, one of which is giving birth to future Christians. Now, I want all of you to raise your right hand. Come on, everyone. Good. Now say after me. I vow to the Lord our God to remain a virgin until I am married. The girls repeated the vow. Now, you are at an age when some boys and even older men will try to convince you that your personal vow is silly. There will be some who will try to force you. Fight them. Kick them where it hurts. She smiled. They laughed. The church has made it easier to remain pure. That's why boys and girls go to separate schools through junior high and have separate classes in high school. When the time is right, your parents and the church will help you find the right person. Trust them. They've gone through the selection process. For many generations, parents and the church have successfully matched up the right people. They will find a right person for you. None of you should have boyfriends yet. If you're attracted to a boy, and he is to you, you're playing with fire. Boys will try to trick you. They have several tactics they will use to violate you. Their favorite and most successful tactic is to tell you that they love you more than anything, and being in love makes it okay. It's not. They will tell you that the greatest expression of true love is sex, and they will say, if you really love me, you'd do it. They will threaten to leave you if you don't do it. They will tell you that a lot of girls are doing it. They will tell you that you are pretty and special, and they have never met a girl like you before. Some of those lies and tricks were tried on me, but I resisted. You can too. Your purity is a precious gift from God. It is part of your soul. Protect it. If you lose your virginity, you could lose your soul. Never be alone with a boy. Always expect them to try something. They will be persistent. Make sure you are with other girls, or preferably adults, even at the church. Quickly learn to say no and say it loudly. They may even try to use the Bible to say it is permissible. If they mention Proverbs 5 verse 19, they're trying to trick you. The Bible clearly states that sex outside of marriage is just as bad as evil thoughts, murder, adultery, theft, false witness, and blasphemy. Think of it this way. If you violate your vow, you will lose your soul. You will reside in hell for eternity. A hand rose. Yes, Judy. What does it say? You mean Proverbs 5 verse 19? Yes. Well, the part of it boys may recite is let her breasts satisfy you at all times and always be enraptured with her love. Oh, that's not good. Exactly. Another hand rose. Yes, Dorothy. Do the boys take the same vow? If they did, we should not have to worry about them. You can't depend on them to do the right thing. You have to do it. They have hormones driving them, so it's harder for them. We have hormones driving us too, don't we? Yes, but theirs are stronger. I don't understand. How can theirs be stronger? That's the way it has always been. So, the boys won't get God's blessing. They'll lose their soul, right? Dorothy had dragged Abigail into an area where Abigail had no clear answers. Let's move on to another topic. Just know they will try repeatedly, and you must resist repeatedly. Seeing looks of consternation, Abigail paused. You must not just resist the boys. You must resist your own sinful desires. They are strong because evil is strong, but you can trust the church and your parents. They will find you the right mate at the right time. They found the perfect mate for my two sisters and their friends. It will not be long before they have wonderful families. I'm looking forward to seeing who they pick for my husband. But until they have chosen someone, remain pure. I will. Bethany had long ago committed herself to purity in all its forms. Virginity sat at the pinnacle. She would never let it fall. To her, it was to be protected at all costs. To her, boys were a plague, crude and cruel. Her brother's treatment of Delilah had proven that. Bethany had told Naomi only a week ago that she would die before she would become impure. If she were raped, she would pray for God to take her life. Naomi had looked askance at Bethany. It wasn't just chastity that was important to Bethany. She was committed to being the perfect Christian. Her vow to God included charity, kindness, compassion, understanding, helping others, being non-judgmental, accepting others, humility, thankfulness, forgiveness, morality, and, of course, loving everyone. In all things, she strongly felt that she should put other people's needs and desires before hers. Her major fault, her incessant questioning and curiosity. Figuring that the 5 hands that then rose would still be focused on the initial topic, Abigail motioned them to lower their hands. Let's move on to another important topic, charity. A smile rapidly spread over Bethany's face, but it still didn't garner as much attention and confusion as chastity. Why did God make it so tempting?